Welcome back. New day, new video. Today, I want to discuss with you the race for the top four in Serie A, which is actually the race for the last two spots remaining for the Champions League in Serie A, because Inter and Napoli are pretty much settled and will surely play in the Champions League next season. And because, more sadly, because Italy won't have five teams in the Champions League next season. Lazio were eliminated from the Europa League against Bodo Glimt last night. Fiorentina qualified for the Europa League semi-finals. Sorry, for the Conference League semi-finals, of course. Um, Inter have qualified for the Champions League semi-finals as well, but only these two teams won't be enough for Italy to get one of the top two spots in the UEFA coefficient ranking, which will be taken by England and Spain. So these two leagues, Premier League and La Liga, will have five clubs in the Champions League next season. This is something that happened to Serie A last term when Thiago Motta's Bologna finished fifth, and so they got that extra spot um, for the Champions League. It was a different season, of course, for Serie A clubs because there were much better results in European competitions, even if Inter didn't get that far in the Champions League and were eliminated in the round of 16. So, what's the situation now? There are 6 games remaining. As I said, Inter and Napoli are pretty much settled, and they're going to play in the Champions League in 2025-26. The other teams, there are many, because there are Milan, Fiorentina, Roma, Lazio, Bologna, Juventus, and even Atalanta, who were fighting for the title just a few weeks ago, but then they had a downfall. They lost 3 games in a row before winning the latest round against Bologna, one of their direct rivals. So it was a massive win for La Dea in the race for the top four, but they're still very much involved, and there are 6 games remaining with a lot of games between direct opponents starting from this week. So first of all, I want to share with you the Serie A table from the official website of the Lega Serie A. You can see it on my screen now. So yeah, as I said, Inter and Napoli, they'll play for the title. Actually, I got a video about the Serie A title race, which I posted a few days ago. If you want to check it out, we got Atalanta sitting third with 61 points, Juventus fourth with 59, Bologna have 57, Lazio 56, Roma 54, Fiorentina 53, and Milan 51. So this is the current status in Serie A. You see there is a very big gap between the top 9 and then the remaining teams, with Torino, Udinese, Genoa, who are pretty much safe. I would say Como as well are pretty much guaranteed another Serie A season in 2025-26. But let's go back to the point. Top 4 and actually race for the third and fourth place in Serie A. What is going to happen this weekend? I want to show you the games involving these teams as well, starting from this weekend, which is going to be a little bit strange in Italy because it's not usual to see games played on Easter Day, but this is exactly what's going to happen this time around. And it's going to be a very important day as well because, for example, on that day, on Sunday, Inter play away at Bologna, and it's going to be a massive match for the title race and for the Champions League race as well. So let me show you the fixture list for the next round. Here we got the table from Sky Sport Italia, the latest result. Round 33. We start with Roma Verona. When talking about Roma, I got some quotes from Claudio Ranieri, which I want to show you later on because from today's press conference, those were pretty interesting and meaningful for the Roma title race and their mood getting into this game, which on paper it seems easy because Verona, they're not mathematically safe, but they have good chances to survive because the fight between the bottom 3 or 4 it's unlikely to involve them. So on paper it's an easy game, but Ranieri's quotes today were pretty interesting. We'll discuss it later on. Bologna Inter, as I said, the big game played on Easter Day, 6 p.m. Local time, so this means 5 p.m. UK time. Milan Atalanta on the same day, which is Sunday, 8:45 p.m. Fiorentina play Cagliari away. Again, not an easy game, especially because Cagliari are still involved in the title race, in the race for survival, of course. Genoa and Lazio, which on paper it's kind of an easy game for Lazio, even if Genoa, the stadium is always full, and of course they never want to play to lose a home, but um, they have already reached the target, so perhaps they're going to have less motivation than Lazio, even if the Lazio defeat was pretty huge last night. I mean, it was a massive blow because they thought they had made it, and then they were eliminated on penalties. So the mood won't be the best for Marco Baroni's men. Parma Juventus again, one match between one team fighting for the top four and another one fighting for the fighting for to avoid relegation. So let's say Lazio and Juventus, Fiorentina and Juventus, they have similar opponents because Cagliari and Parma are direct opponents. Bologna, Milan, Atalanta, and Inter, they have a similar path as well. They're playing against direct rivals, or at least teams fighting for something big in Serie A. Roma and Lazio, they have similar opponents, I would say, that practically secure survival, both Verona and Genoa. But the mood is not ideal on either side. So potentially this could be a good advantage. This could give a slight advantage to the Rome clubs. But I'll show you the Ranieri quotes later on, which explain a little bit why they're not exactly in a great mood at the Stadio Olimpico, at least um, on the yellow and red side. Round 34 dates were announced today by Lega Serie A. This one is not yet updated, but if you go on the Football Italia website, you will see the dates and times for Serie A round 34. Atalanta play at home against Lecce, team fighting for survival. Fiorentina Empoli, another team fighting for survival, plus it's a Tuscan derby, which is always pretty meaningful for Empoli. And Empoli this season, they've had better results away than at home, even if 2025 has been terrible. Say the Coppa Italia game against Juventus, which they won, and it was until now the only victory they had this year. Inter Roma, huge game, especially because Inter will be coming from the Coppa Italia semi-final against Milan, and they will be preparing for the first leg Champions League semi-final against Barcelona the following week. So it'll be an interesting game with Inter, who will need to manage a little bit the energies for the big European match and after another big game in the Coppa Italia, because they play the city rivals and they've never won so far in this campaign against Milan. Juventus Monza is probably the easiest game, with all the respect due to Monza, because they're pretty much relegated. So it should be an easy win for Juventus. Lazio Parma, similar to Parma Juventus on the previous week. Parma will be fighting for survival until the very end. So it's never an easy team to face, especially in the final weeks of the season. Udinese Bologna should be, I wouldn't say too easy, because playing away at Udine is never easy, but they've already reached the targets, and their recent results suggest that maybe the players have already switched off a little bit. We go to Serie A round 35, and we have the dates and times confirmed today by Lega Serie A as well. Monza Atalanta, same as before. Monza practically relegated, so on paper it's an easy match for Ladea. Bologna Juventus is going to be huge in the race for the top four, just like Roma Fiorentina, which will be played at the Stadio Olimpico. Lazio play away at Empoli, not easy, and Milan play away at Genoa, who have already settled that result. They already reached the target. So again, never easy to play at Marassi, but surely better than playing Roma or facing a team that is fighting for survival. Round 36, still more big games coming up. Atalanta Roma will be huge. Lazio Juventus will be huge. Milan Bologna will be huge. And then we have Venezia Fiorentina, with Venezia fighting for survival. So this round, Serie A 36, it's going to be very, very important in the race for the Champions League spot, because you see there are uh, pretty much nearly all the direct opponents meeting each other. So it's a huge, real turning point, potential turning point for all the teams involved. Getting a win in this game would mean a lot um, in the race for playing the Champions League football next season. Penultimate game, Fiorentina Bologna, another match between direct contenders. Genoa Atalanta, Inter Lazio, which is meaningful for the title race as well, of course, because it involves Inter, Juventus Udinese, and Roma Milan. And round 38 is also pretty important, but there are no meetings between direct opponents, and it's pretty much the only one of the six rounds remaining. So we have Atalanta Parma, Bologna Genoa, Lazio Lecce, Milan Monza, Torino Roma, and Udinese Fiorentina. Out of these teams, we may expect Lecce to be still fighting for survival, Parma to be still fighting for survival, Udinese, Torino, Genoa pretty much settled. Monza, unfortunately for them, already relegated against Milan. Um, One interesting thing about this is that I've never mentioned Napoli. So Napoli never meet one of the sides fighting for Champions League football, which could have a huge impact on the race for the Serie A title, because Inter, they meet Lazio, they meet Roma, they meet Bologna, and they play some of these games potentially. They play some of these games in between Champions League semifinals, Coppa Italia semifinals. So this could have an impact on the title race as well. But Napoli is never mentioned among these fixtures, so keep an eye on this, because um, the Partenopei, as I believe, may have a slight edge over Inter in the Scudetto race. I mentioned some Ranieri quotes, and I want to finish this video with those. I'll show you the Football Italia article, which I wrote. So regardless of what he said on Dovbyk, he's been pretty critical of Dovbyk through his entire tenure. Claudio Ranieri is not entirely happy with his involvement, with how he plays with the team, how he links up, and he also said the team that has to improve in the way they provide assists for the Ukrainian striker. But Dovbyk has had a strange season, because he played a little better under De Rossi and Juric when the rest of the team was terrible, especially under Juric. With Ranieri, results have improved, but Dovbyk has been on and off, even if he scored some very important goals. So he continued. I think he's trying to stimulate and motivate the Ukrainian striker, who was the biggest Roma signing last season, so last summer. So I think Ranieri really wants to get the best out of this player and not try to demotivate him. But the interesting quote about Roma, I think it's mostly this one, and it's about the race for the Champions League. Would you bet the Euro on us qualifying for the Champions League? You want to lose it? Let's be honest. If we make it to the Champions League, it's because the other collapse and we pull off a masterpiece. So this says a lot about the environment that there is at Roma right now, or at least the way that Ranieri sees the team. I think Ranieri sees a team that is pretty tired after a huge stretch, some very good results across the 2025. Since the start of the year, Roma are unbeaten in Serie A since December 15. They got draws against Juventus and Lazio in the last two games, but those are big opponents and big rivals for Roma as well. So it's kind of understandable. But I think Ranieri sees the team pretty tight, and he says that as well, because he says we should not put too much pressure on these players, because they've already done a lot. It's not realistic. He continued. We must be serious with the fans. I've always said, let's give our best and see what happens. We've given everything. The team has made an incredible comeback, and I'm not trying to take the credit. Let's hold on to these guys who are fighting. I ask the fan support in this final stretch. It's crucial that they understand the situation we're in. So again, um, Ranieri doesn't seem to believe too much in qualifying for the Champions League, which doesn't mean Roma won't try. But Tudor will talk tomorrow, for example. Gasperini, Italiano, I expect a more powerful mood from them, and not this sort um, of statements. But it's understandable. As I said, Roma have done excellent things under Ranieri, and perhaps he sees a little bit of fatigue in the team, which is entirely understandable. And perhaps he doesn't want to put too much pressure on them because he knows they have already achieved a lot. And unfortunately, because of the results in the first part of the season, their fate is not in their hands. Ranieri is right. It, if Roma win every game, they must hope that the other teams they have in front won't do the same, and that they have a few teams in front of them, because Lazio are 2 points ahead, Bologna are 3 points ahead, Juventus are 5 points ahead, and they are the team in fourth position, and Atalanta are even higher in third position. So Ranieri is right. He needs uh, Roma can't only count on themselves. They also need other teams to um, make mistakes and lose games. And it's not just one opponent; it's many opponents. So perhaps the team is a little bit tired, and it doesn't want to, put too much pressure on the players or ruin a very good season, or a very good final part of the season with some disappointing results. He needs to tell the fans that right now Roma have probably reached their limit. But let's see what happens tomorrow. The Giallorossi will play at home against Hellas Verona, and then, as I said, there will be many other big games, not just this weekend, but the last 6 rounds in Serie A will be filled with drama for sure, and for sure there will be some surprises, as it always happens in Serie A. This was everything I had on the Serie A on the Serie A race for the top four. There are still two spots that have to be decided. Atalanta have a slight edge in terms of points, but it's all wide open. As you saw, there are many games between direct opponents, so anything can really happen. And I'll be following this with all of you, covering some of these games live from the stadium as well. So get in touch if you like this content. Subscribe to my channel, and we'll speak again very, very soon for more Serie A and Italian football stuff. Ciao. Thank